The observation deck of the Carthene warship, Sovereign's Fist, hummed with the low thrum of containment fields, and Commander Vexthal stood perfectly still, all four of his eyes fixed on the human prisoner below. She wasn't much to look at, honestly. Small, fragile-looking. Her skin was that odd peachy tan color that humans came in, and her hair, dark and pulled back into what his cultural database informed him was called a ponytail, seemed entirely impractical for combat. She wore the tattered remains of what had once been a cargo hauler's jumpsuit, now stained with what he hoped was engine grease and not something more concerning. "This is the human who destroyed 3 of our fighter squadrons?" Vexthal asked, not bothering to hide his skepticism. His second officer, a younger Carthene named Plix Nor, bobbed his head appendages in confirmation. "Yes, Commander. Single-handedly, she was defending a mining colony on the edge of the outer reaches. We lost 47 fighters before we managed to disable her ship and take her alive." Vexthal's mandibles clicked together in thought. 47 fighters, against 1 cargo hauler. The math didn't make sense, and he'd always been good at math. "And her weapon?" he asked. "Confiscated. It's in the examination lab. Chief Analyst Drenkar is looking at it now." The human, whose name the computer had identified as Emma Caldwell, age 32, registered cargo pilot, sat cross-legged on the floor of her containment cell. She didn't pace, didn't test the barriers, didn't even seem particularly worried. She just sat there, humming something under her breath, and occasionally examining her fingernails like she was waiting for a particularly boring appointment to begin. It was unnerving. Vexthal had captured hundreds of beings from dozens of species over his 20-year military career. They all had patterns. The aggressive ones attacked the barriers immediately. The frightened ones cowered. The clever ones probed for weaknesses while pretending to do something else. But this human? She just existed, calmly. Like being captured by a hostile alien warship was only mildly inconvenient. He pressed the communication pad. "Chief Analyst, report on the human weapon." A pause. Then Drenkar's voice crackled through, sounding confused. "Commander, I've completed the initial scan. This isn't a weapon." Vexthal felt his primary stomach clench. "Explain." "It's well, the human database calls it a pipe wrench. It's a tool for tightening and loosening cylindrical fasteners in fluid transfer systems. There's no energy signature, no projectile mechanism, no plasma generation capability. It's literally just a piece of shaped metal with a movable jaw." The commander stared down at the human, who had stopped humming, and was now looking directly at him through the transparent barrier. She smiled, actually smiled, and waved. "That's impossible," Vexthal said. "She destroyed 47 fighters with a plumbing tool? The damage reports are consistent with impact trauma," Plix Nor offered helpfully. She threw it. Multiple times, with extreme accuracy. Our pilots report that she would throw it, retrieve it when it ricocheted off one target, and throw it again at another. The velocity readings were impossible for a being of her mass and musculature, but the evidence doesn't lie. Vexthal felt a headache forming behind his third eye. "I need to speak with her." "Commander, is that wise? We don't know what—" "Now, Plix Nor." The containment field shimmered as Vexthal stepped through, keeping his hand near his plasma pistol. The human watched him approach, that same small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Commander Vexthal, I presume?" she said in perfectly fluent Carthene. "Your universal translator works pretty well, but I picked up your language from the mining colony's database. Hope you don't mind." "You learned Carthene in the 3 hours since we captured." "You? Well, I didn't have much else to do. Your cell isn't exactly equipped with entertainment options." She gestured around at the bare walls. "No holovids, no books, not even a deck of cards. Very disappointing hospitality, if I'm being honest." Vexthal's mandibles clicked in irritation. "You destroyed 47 of my fighters. Technically, I only destroyed 39. 8 of them crashed into each other trying to avoid me. That's not really my fault, is it? I mean, you guys should probably work on your formation flying. Very sloppy. With a pipe wrench. Depends who's holding it. Her smile widened. In the right hands, Commander, anything can be a weapon. A fork, a coffee mug, a particularly aggressive houseplant. Once killed a guy with a shoe, but that's a story for another time. Vexthal felt his secondary stomach joining his primary in a slow, uncomfortable churn. You're remarkably calm for someone in your position. Emma shrugged. What position is that exactly? See, from where I'm sitting, you've got a problem. You attacked a civilian mining colony, which is a violation of about 15 different interstellar treaties. You destroyed my ship, which I just finished paying off, by the way. Very annoying. And you kidnapped me, which is illegal in literally every system I can think of. We are at war with the human territories. No, you declared war on the human territories about 6 hours ago, which means when you attacked that colony, you were committing piracy and kidnapping, and probably a bunch of other crimes that I'm too tired to remember right now. She yawned, covering her mouth with her hand. Point is, you're in way more trouble than I am. This was not going the way Vexthal had planned. You are my prisoner, for now. Emma stood up, stretching her arms over her head. She was even smaller standing up, barely reaching his lower chest. But here's the thing about humans that you probably should have researched before starting this: war. We're really, really good at 3 things: adapting, improvising, and absolutely refusing to know when we're beaten. I have 50,000 soldiers on this ship, and I'm one unarmed cargo pilot with a really bad attitude, and nothing to lose. She took a step closer to him, and Vexthal found himself taking an involuntary step back. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me back my wrench. You're going to provide me with a shuttle. And you're going to get the hell away from that mining colony and every other human settlement in this sector. Or what? Her smile vanished. The change was instant and complete, like someone had flipped a switch. Her eyes, which had been warm and slightly amused, went flat and cold. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, almost gentle, which somehow made it infinitely more threatening. Or, I'm going to show you exactly why humanity climbed its way to the top of the food chain on a death world you wouldn't survive 10 minutes on. And, Commander, you really, really don't want that demonstration. The observation deck's proximity alarm chose that moment to blare. Plixnor's voice crackled through the communication system, high and panicked. Commander, we have multiple contacts entering the system. Human warships. At least 20 of them. And they're big, sir. Vexthal spun toward the exit, then back to Emma, who had her arms crossed, and that infuriating smile back on her face. Oh, did I forget to mention? That mining colony you attacked? It's where the human Third Fleet does its supply runs. They were due back today. She checked an invisible watch on her wrist. Actually, they're right on time. Very punctual. The Third Fleet. This is a trap. This is you making a really stupid decision and me having to wait for the cavalry to show up. Not quite the same thing. She sat back down on the floor, resuming her cross-legged position. Now you've got a choice to make, Commander. You can surrender, peacefully. Or you can fight 20 human warships with your one, admittedly impressive, but still only one, warship. How do you think that's going to go? Vexthal's mandibles ground together as he processed the situation. Through the transparent hull plating, he could see the flashes of ships dropping out of hyperspace. 20 ships. 20 massive, heavily armed human warships, each one bristling with weapons that made his own arsenal look like children's toys. You planned this, he said. No, I got lucky. Big difference. I was just delivering spare parts to the colony when you attacked. The fact that you showed up right before the fleet was due back? That's just the universe having a sense of humor. She paused. Although, I have to say, I'm a little disappointed. I was kind of hoping to escape on my own. Would have been a great story. Cargo pilot escapes alien warship using only her wits and a pipe wrench. That would have gotten me free drinks at every port in the sector. The communication system crackled again. Commander, the human ships are hailing us. They're demanding we surrender and release their pilot immediately. Tell them we'll destroy her if they don't withdraw. Emma laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, please do. Please tell Admiral Martinez that you'll kill me if she doesn't back off. I want to hear what she says. She's my aunt, by the way. Very protective. Also very fond of creative violence. Gets it from her mother's side of the family. I get it from my father's side, so it's a whole thing. Vexthal stared at her. Your aunt is the Admiral of the Third Fleet? Yep. Aunt Rosa. She's going to be so mad that you destroyed my ship. She helped me pick it out. Spent 3 months finding the perfect cargo hauler, and you just vaporized it. She's probably composing very strongly worded threats right now. Well, probably not just words. Probably also targeting solutions for every vital system on your ship. The deck shuddered as the first ranging shots from the human fleet streaked past the Sovereign's fist. Close enough to make the shields flare, but not close enough to actually hit. A warning. A very clear warning. Stand down! Plixnor's voice was nearly a shriek now. Commander! They're locking weapons! All 20 ships! We can't possibly... I'm thinking! Vexthal roared back. He looked down at the human, who was examining her fingernails again. If I release you, when you release me, when I release you, will your aunt call off the attack? Emma tilted her head, considering. Depends. Are you going to apologize? Apologize? Yeah, you know. Say you're sorry for destroying my ship, attacking a civilian colony, kidnapping me, and generally being a massive pain in my ass. It's the polite thing to do. Vexthal's primary and secondary stomachs were now in open rebellion against the rest of his internal organs. His tertiary stomach was considering joining them. Fine, I apologize. Don't really feel the sincerity there, Commander, but I'll take it. She stood up again, brushing imaginary dust off her jumpsuit. Okay, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have someone escort me to your shuttle bay. You're going to give me back my wrench. You're going to load that shuttle with enough supplies for a 2-week journey, because I don't trust you not to strand me in deep space. And then you're going to leave this system and never, ever come back. And if I refuse? Emma's smile returned, but it didn't reach her eyes. Then Aunt Rosa turns your ship into the galaxy's most expensive debris field, and I still end up getting rescued. But this way, you and your 50,000 soldiers get to go home to your families. Seems like a pretty good deal to me. The deck shuddered again, harder this time. The human fleet was getting impatient. Vexthal made a decision he suspected he'd be explaining to the High Command for years to come. Plixnor, escort our guest to the shuttle bay. Return her, Tool, and prepare a shuttle with supplies. Yes, Commander. This way, please. Emma walked toward the exit, then paused and turned back to Vexthal. You know, Commander, you seem like a decent guy who just made some bad choices, so I'm going to give you some free advice. Before you start any more wars, maybe do a little research on who you're fighting. Because humans? We're the species that looked at the concept of impossible and said, hold my beer and watch this. What's a beer? An alcoholic beverage. We invented it about 10,000 years ago and have been using it as an excuse for increasingly stupid decisions ever since. She grinned. Also, we're the species that domesticated wolves into dogs just because we thought they were cute. We turned apex predators into pets. Think about what that says about us. With that, she walked out, leaving Vexthal standing in the containment cell, wondering how his day had gone so spectacularly wrong. The shuttle bay was cold, sterile, and filled with nervous Carthene soldiers who kept their weapons trained on Emma while simultaneously trying to maintain what they probably thought was a respectful distance. She found it hilarious. Here she was, one human in a torn jumpsuit, surrounded by dozens of armed aliens, and they looked like they expected her to spontaneously combust or grow an extra head. Plixnor handed her the pipe wrench with the kind of careful reverence usually reserved for handling live explosives. Your implement. Emma hefted it, feeling the familiar weight settle into her palm. The wrench was old, covered in scratches and dents from years of use. Her father had given it to her when she'd gotten her pilot's license. "Take care of your tools," he'd said, "and they'll take care of you." He'd been talking about maintenance equipment, but the principle applied pretty universally. "Thanks." She tucked it into the loop on her belt. "So, which shuttle am I taking?" Plixnor gestured with two of his appendages toward a small craft in the corner. It looked decent enough, probably designed for short-range reconnaissance. "That one has been fueled and stocked, according to your specifications. The Admiral has agreed to hold fire until you're clear of our vessel. See? Cooperation. Isn't this nicer than all that shooting and dying?" Emma walked toward the shuttle, then stopped. Something had been nagging at her since the conversation with Vex Thal. "Hey, can I ask you something?" The young officer's eye stalks twitched nervously. "I suppose." "Why did you attack that colony? I mean, really. What's the actual reason your people declared war on humanity?" Plixnor's mandibles clicked together in a pattern Emma's newly acquired language skills identified as embarrassment. "The High Command believes humanity is expanding too quickly into territories we consider ours. They fear that in another generation, humans will outnumber Cartheens in the outer systems. So this is about territory and population growth." "Essentially, yes," Emma sighed. "You know what would have been easier than starting a war? Talking, maybe setting up some treaties, establishing borders, working out trade agreements. Stuff that doesn't involve blowing each other up. The High Command doesn't believe humans would negotiate in good faith. Well, the High Command is run by idiots then." She saw several soldiers tense at that comment. "No offense to you personally. You seem nice. But starting a war because you're afraid someone might become more successful than you? That's the kind of thinking that gets entire civilizations wiped out." Before Plixnor could respond, the shuttle bay doors opened and Commander Vex Thal strode in, looking like he'd aged about 10 years in the last 20 minutes. Behind him walked another Cartheen, this one wearing the elaborate ceremonial armor that Emma's crash. Course, in Cartheen culture, identified as belonging to a High Counselor. "Oh, this was going to be interesting. Human," the counselor said, his voice dripping with disdain. "I am High Counselor Trent Vax. I have been monitoring this situation, and I must say, your threats do not intimidate me." Emma raised an eyebrow. "Wasn't trying to intimidate anyone, just trying to leave without anyone else dying. But hey, if you want to escalate things, I'm sure my aunt would love to have this conversation with you. She's much better at the whole threatening thing than I am." "Your aunt commands 20 ships. The Cartheen Empire has 10,000. "Yep, and every single one of them is at least 5 years behind human technology. We've got shield harmonics you haven't figured out yet, weapons systems your best scientists couldn't replicate, and navigation computers that make yours look like they're powered by hamsters on wheels." She paused. "Do you have hamsters? Small, furry rodents? No? Well, anyway, the point stands." Trent Vax's skin flushed a deep purple, which Emma was pretty sure indicated anger. "You dare mock the might of the Cartheen Empire? I'm not mocking anything. I'm stating facts. Look, Counselor, I get it. You're used to being the big, scary military power in this region. But humanity didn't get where we are by backing down from bullies." She crossed her arms. "Want to know how we survived long enough to reach the stars? Enlighten me. We came from a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Predators that could tear us apart. Diseases that wiped out entire populations. Weather that could freeze or roast us in hours. Volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, droughts. Our own planet was actively hostile, and we not only survived, we thrived. Emma took a step closer to the counselor. We learned to make weapons out of rocks. We learned to make fire out of sticks. We learned to turn every single disadvantage into an advantage. And when we finally got off that death trap of a planet, we brought all those survival instincts with us. The shuttle bay had gone completely silent. Even the soldiers had stopped fidgeting. So here's what's going to happen, Emma continued, her voice calm and steady. I'm going to get in that shuttle and leave. Commander Vexathal is going to withdraw his ship from this system. And you, Counselor, are going to go back to your nice, safe command center and explain to the rest of the High Command why continuing this war would be the worst mistake in Carthene history. And if we refuse? Emma smiled, but there was no humor in it. Then humanity will do what we've always done when someone tries to wipe us out. We'll fight back. And we won't stop until every single threat to our survival is eliminated. Not because we're cruel or because we enjoy violence, but because 10,000 years of evolution on the worst planet in the galaxy taught us one very simple lesson. You either adapt and overcome, or you die. We chose to adapt. Trentvax stared at her for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound that made several of the soldiers jump. You are either the bravest being I've ever met, or the most foolish. Probably a bit of both, if I'm being honest. Emma shrugged. But I'm also right, and you know it. You didn't expect humans to fight back this hard, did you? You thought we'd be like the other species you've conquered. Scared, disorganized, easy to intimidate. The other species were rational. They understood when they were outmatched. See, that's where you don't understand humans. We're not rational. We're stubborn, creative, and just crazy enough to try things that should be impossible. You want an example? She pulled the pipe wrench from her belt. I took out 47 fighters with this. You know why? Because when my weapon systems went down, I didn't give up. I opened the airlock, tethered myself to the hull, and started throwing the heaviest thing I could find. Was it smart? Absolutely not. Was it effective? Well, I'm here, and your fighters aren't, so you tell me. Commander Vexthal, who had been silent this entire time, finally spoke up. Counselor, perhaps the human has a point. Our initial projections suggested this would be a short conflict. Instead, we've lost more ships in the first 6 hours than we lost in the entire Zorathian campaign. Because you're fighting scared colonists and cargo pilots, Emma said. Wait until you run into our actual military. The Third Fleet? That's just Aunt Rosa's little corner of the Navy. We've got 12 more fleets, each one bigger and better equipped than this one, plus the Marines, the Special Forces, and the Planetary Defense Forces. And every single one of them is staffed by humans who grew up on stories about how our ancestors survived impossible odds. She could see the calculations running behind Trentvax's eyes. He was a politician, which meant he knew how to count casualties and measure costs. The initial confidence in his posture was starting to crack. The High Command will not surrender, he said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. I'm not asking you to surrender. I'm asking you to be smart. Open negotiations. Establish actual communication channels. Figure out a way to coexist that doesn't involve mutual annihilation. Emma softened her voice slightly. Look, I've been to Carthene colonies. I've met your people. Most of them are decent, hard-working folks just trying to live their lives, same as humans. This war isn't going to benefit anyone except the weapons manufacturers and the politicians who need a distraction from their domestic problems. Plixnor made a small noise that might have been agreement. Vexthal's mandibles clicked in what Emma was starting to recognize as thoughtfulness. Trentvax looked around the shuttle bay, seeing his own people's reactions. Finally, he sighed, a long whistling sound through his respiratory slits. You may be right, human. But the decision is not mine alone to make. Then go make it with the other counselors. Have a nice long chat about whether continuing this war is really worth potentially losing everything. Emma headed toward the shuttle. In the meantime, I'm going home. I need to file an insurance claim on my ship, and that paperwork is going to be a nightmare. She was halfway up the shuttle ramp when Vexthal called out, "Human! Emma Caldwell!" She turned back. "Yeah? How did you really destroy those fighters?" The velocity calculations don't match what should be physically possible for someone of your size and strength. Emma grinned. "Adrenaline, Commander. When humans get scared or angry enough, our bodies dump a bunch of chemicals into our bloodstream that temporarily make us stronger, faster, and more capable than we should be. We call it the fight or flight response. Our ancestors used it to run from predators or fight off attackers. I used it to turn a pipe wrench into a kinetic missile. That seems inefficient and dangerous." "Oh, it absolutely is. I'm going to be sore for a week, and I probably did some minor damage to my cardiovascular system. But I'm alive, and your fighters are scrap metal, so I'd say it worked out pretty well." She paused. "That's another thing about humans, Commander. We're willing to break ourselves if it means surviving. Our bodies are basically held together with duct tape and sheer determination, but we keep pushing forward anyway." "What's duct tape?" "A miracle substance we invented for fixing literally everything. I'll send you a sample." With that, she climbed into the shuttle and fired up the engines. The launch was smooth, and within minutes she was clear of the Sovereign's fist. The human fleet maintained their positions, weapons still locked, but not firing. Emma opened a communication channel to the flagship. "Aunt Rosa, this is Emma. Permission to dock?" The response came immediately, and her aunt's voice was equal parts relieved and furious. "Emma Caldwell, when you get on this ship, I'm going to hug you and then I'm going to kill you. What were you thinking? Taking on an entire squadron with a pipe wrench? In my defense, they blew up my weapons first. The wrench was Plan B. We're having a very long conversation about your life choices when you get here. Dock in Bay 7. And Emma? Good job. Really. Your father would be proud." Emma felt a lump form in her throat at the mention of her father. He died 3 years ago. Engine failure on a routine supply run. "Thanks, Aunt Rosa." As she guided the shuttle toward the flagship, Emma looked back at the Carthene warship. It was already turning, preparing to jump away. Whether Trentvax would actually push for peace talks or not remained to be seen, but at least she'd planted the seed. Sometimes that was all you could do. Her communication console beeped. Incoming message from the Sovereign's fist. Text only. She opened it. "Thank you for your restraint and wisdom. Perhaps there is hope for peace after all. Also, I am very glad I did not have to fight you with that wrench. Safe travels, Emma Caldwell. Commander Vexthal." Emma laughed and typed back a response. "Safe travels to you too, Commander. Tell the High Command to call us. We'll talk. And hey, if you're ever in human space and need a cargo delivery, look me up. I give discounts to former enemies. Emma." The shuttle slipped into the docking bay of the flagship, and Emma powered down the engines. Through the viewport, she could see Aunt Rosa waiting, hands on her hips, trying to look stern, and failing miserably because the relief on her face was too obvious. Emma grabbed her pipe wrench, gave it an affectionate pat, and headed down the ramp. "So," Aunt Rosa said, as Emma approached, 47 fighters. Technically, 39. The other 8 were operator error on their part. With a pipe wrench. It's a very good pipe wrench. Aunt Rosa pulled her into a bone-crushing hug. "You're insane. You know that, right? Runs in the family." Emma hugged her back just as hard. "Did you really think I couldn't handle one little warship? I think you're going to give me a heart attack one of these days." Aunt Rosa pulled back, holding Emma at arm's length and looking her over. "Are you hurt?" "Bruised ego from getting my ship blown up. Otherwise, fine. We'll get you a new ship. Better one. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. What did you say to them? The Carthene ship is withdrawing, and we're picking up encoded transmissions back to their high command. Something happened on that ship. Emma shrugged. Just had a chat about the benefits of peaceful coexistence over mutual destruction, and maybe reminded them that humans are really hard to kill. Using the pipe wrench as evidence. Using the pipe wrench as evidence, Emma confirmed. Aunt Rosa shook her head, but she was smiling. Come on, let's get you to medical. Then we'll file that insurance claim. And then, you're going to tell me exactly how you took out 47 fighters, because that story is going to become legend in the fleet, and I want to know the real version. As they walked through the corridors of the flagship, passing crew members who stared and whispered and pointed, Emma reflected on the strange turn her day had taken. She'd started out just trying to deliver some spare parts. Now she was potentially responsible for ending a war before it really began. Not bad for a cargo pilot with a pipe wrench. Behind them, through the viewports, the Carthene warship flickered and vanished into hyperspace. In a few days, maybe weeks, human and Carthene diplomats would sit down at a table and start working out the details of peace. Or maybe they wouldn't, and the war would continue. Either way, Emma Caldwell had done her part. She'd shown the Carthenes that humans weren't going to be easy prey, that sometimes the scariest weapon wasn't the one with the most firepower, but the one wielded by someone with nothing to lose and everything to fight for. And if that weapon happened to be a pipe wrench, well, that just made for a better story. Aunt Rosa glanced at the wrench still hanging from Emma's belt. You're keeping that, aren't you? I'm getting it mounted and displayed. Emma patted it fondly. Besides, Dad always said to take care of your tools. I figure I owe this one at least that much. Your father, Aunt Rosa said softly, would have been laughing his head off at this entire situation. Yeah, Emma agreed. Yeah, he would have. They reached the medical bay, and Emma submitted to a quick examination that confirmed what she already knew. She was fine, just tired and sore. The doctor recommended rest, which Emma fully intended to ignore in favor of filling out insurance paperwork and writing up an incident report that would probably become required reading at the Naval Academy. Later, much later, after the reports were filed and the statements were given, and Emma finally had a chance to collapse into a bunk, she lay awake thinking about Commander Vexthal and High Counselor Trentvax and all those nervous soldiers in the shuttle bay. They'd been so certain of their superiority, so confident that humanity would fold under pressure. They'd learned the hard way what every species that had ever underestimated humans eventually learned. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology, or their numbers, or their weapons. It was their absolute refusal to accept defeat. Emma smiled in the darkness, her pipe wrench resting on the table beside her bunk. Tomorrow, she'd start shopping for a new ship, something with better shields this time. Maybe some upgraded weapon systems, just in case. Because while peace was great and diplomacy was important, Emma Caldwell was still a human, and humans always prepared for the next challenge, even if that challenge required nothing more than a good tool and the willingness to use it.